Hey guys, welcome back to the page. Michael Luzier, L4 Property Group, here in Henderson. Jump on, spend a minute talking about the general information notice to consumers. This is another form that I use with every transaction. I have it as part of my compliance checklist for all buyers, all sellers. Um, it's a document that we make sure we get signed, we go over, but we also make sure that our client has a copy of it when we send them a copy of all of the executed documents. Spend a minute, go through it. A whole lot of information. We're gonna make it simple. So this is the general information and notice to consumers. It's a document that, again, we use in every transaction we do. The best way I can explain this to clients, this is a glossary of terms, right? There's so many moving pieces to a transaction, so many documents, so many terms, so many different situations. And we try to make sure we go through everything we need to go through with our clients. You sit down with them, you go through it, and it's like them drinking out of a water hose. Um, and it's like them drinking out of a fire hose. It's so much information, it's hard for them to process. And this is like an old school glossary out of a book, right? It's definitions and more information about individual terms that we use. We're used to them. We use them all the time. If you're new, you're going to get used to them, but we fly through it and we don't always go into the detail that a client may get home, sleep on it, wake up the next morning and go, what was that exactly talking about, right? The second item on here is the appraisal, right? We get so comfortable talking about appraisals and knowing the situation with appraisals. But for somebody that's a first time home buyer and getting them to understand that a home has to appraise at value for a lender to loan on the property, trying to go through and explain to them about the blind portal that the lenders have to put the appraisal request into. Right, there's a ton of information, but this is 5 pages of definitions about terms that we may hit on, we may talk about, but it gives the client the ability to go back and dig into those that they may have questions about a little bit more, right? Annexation, appraisal, brokers, right? We should be talking about the difference between brokers and sales agents when we're giving the information about broker services, but this is another spot for it to talk about, right? I love the underlined part. Brokers and agents are not inspectors, right? We need to make sure they understand that. We're giving them an opinion, but we are not inspectors. And right below that, parties are encouraged to seek the assistance of an attorney. We do not practice law. If you want to lose your license, practice law. You'll figure out real quick it's not a good idea. But we always welcome them to go seek legal counsel if there is a legal question that comes up. Compensation, right? We're terrified to talk about compensation. We're terrified to talk about commission. We try to save it till the very end and hope we slide it in the back end. Talk about money, right? You're providing a service. You should get paid for your service. Why do we get paid for our service, and how does it work? Right? In bold, it says broker compensation or the sharing of compensation between brokers is not set by law nor fixed, controlled, recommended, or suggested by the Association of Realtors. Right? Any MLS services or any other listing services. Broker compensation is fully negotiable. Talk to your broker, figure out what their model is. There's everything from commission to flat fee to hourly fee. You can get paid fees for specific tasks you complete, right? Some people do commission on tiered systems. Up to a certain amount is X, up to a certain amount is Y, up to a certain amount above that is Z. But talk to your broker. Concrete issues, environmental concerns. Right, we've got 5 pages of information. Lead-based paint, if the property was built before 78, we need to be having that conversation, because there's also an additional document that has to be completed with those homes. Mold, oak wilt, noise, expansive soil, FERPTA, flood hazard, foreign buyer and renters, historic conservation districts. If you work in these areas, you need to be an expert on your historic and conservation districts. There's some interesting stuff there. Inspections, repairs, and walkthroughs. Love this section. Anything underlined, pay attention to when you're going through it with the client, right? The buyer should accompany the inspectors during the inspection and ask the inspector questions. Brokers and agents do not possess any special skills, knowledge, or expertise concerning inspections or repairs. I'm very transparent with my clients about this. I have flipped properties. I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to those things. But again, I'm not a licensed inspector. In my role as a real estate salesperson or a broker, I I have to defer that to the inspector. The underlying parts matter. Repairs, walkthrough. Before the close of the sale, the buyer should walk through the property and verify that any repairs are complete. If the condition of the property does not satisfy the contractual provisions, the buyer should notify the buyer's agent before closing. Another document I use, there'll be another video about it, but the buyer walkthrough prior to closing, right, can give you horror story after horror story. It happens. Had somebody sold a house, huge painting above the fireplace. It was there every time they looked, got ready to close. Day before closing, went and did the walkthrough. The painting was gone, and there was water damage all behind the fireplace. Brick was busted. Bad situation. So, again, check with your broker, check with your process, but the buyer walkthrough is something that my office and my agents use. So if you're in my office, you are an agent with L4 Property Group, this is a required form for the checklist to be able to get a CDA to get paid. We're going to talk about owners associations, mineral interest. In Texas, absolutely going to have conversational mineral interest if you're talking about any piece of land. Get comfortable talking about minerals. What multiple listing services, what they are, which ones we use, how we use them. The broker and agent who provides information from the MLS does not verify the accuracy of the information. The buyer and tenant should independently verify the information and not rely solely on information obtained from the MLS. Right? This is information purposes. They do a good job of trying to limit that and make sure that it's as accurate as possible. But again, buyer and buyer's agent should independently verify the information. We're going to talk here in a minute about square foot, and it says the same thing. You need to verify that yourself, whether that's through an appraisal and they go out and measure, whether that's calling the appraisal district saying, hey, can I get a CAD card on the property so I can compare the square footage to what I was given, right? Permits, possession. Again, if you're doing any kind of lease backs, closing, you're taking possession at closing, renting the house, whatever it is, we need to be able to talk about that. Property insurance is a good conversation to remember to have. Horror story, right? The longer you're in this business, you're going to have a story for every situation, it feels like. This one specifically, early on in my career, sold a house to a lady that was paying cash. Right, lenders aren't gonna close the loan until they have the insurance binder. This was a cash deal. Nobody was verifying, so we need to make sure and have that conversation. Hey, you have your insurance in place. We need to get a insurance binder, get it to title. Lender's gonna need it, but even if not, let's make sure and help them through all the steps necessary to get closed on a home. Property values, residential service contracts. Again, we see these in majority of our contracts we write, whether the buyer's agent is requesting it from our seller or we're working as the buyer's agent. Residential service contracts come in play. There's a lot of them out there. They all work different. Find the company that works best for you. Find the company you can make a contact with and feel like you can service your clients the best way. Restrictions on property near an international border. Texas, we've got some stuff on the southern border. Certain states, you're not going to have to worry about that. School boundaries, septic tanks, sex offenders. Right? It gives you the website if somebody's wanting to see if there's any registered sex offenders close to the property they're looking at. That's not something that has to be disclosed, but we give them the website to be able to go check it. Square footage, again, here we're talking what we were just a few minutes ago about making sure to confirm independently. Tax districts, surveillance, this is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. Everybody has a Ring camera or a Blink or Alexa, so I always assume Tell my clients, always assume you're being recorded, both audio and video. Was supposed to be disclosed, but just make certain you have that conversation. All right, survey, synthetic stucco, tax prorations, termination option. It talks about the option period. You should talk about this when you're going through the contract itself, but here it allows your client to come back, get a little bit of extra info on it. Tidewaters, title insurance, utilities, water level fluctuations if you're dealing with a lake property, water wells, and then wire fraud. Again, great opportunity. We use the wire fraud notice in all of our transactions. It's a required document, but this is another place we talk about it. Make sure they're not just sending money because they got a text from something that looked like it was the title company or the lender. Signatures, both the broker or the broker associate, sales agent, and your customer. Make sure once it's signed, I'm not going to spend 15 minutes reading this word for word with the client, but I am going to hit the high points. I'm going to make sure they have a copy of this, and I'm going to make sure they understand this is a dictionary, right? It's a glossary for some terms that are very important to the transaction, but you have it if you have questions later on. You can always call me Mr. and Miss Client. I will go through any of this again with you, but if you wake up in the middle of the night, I'm probably not going to answer 2 o'clock in the morning. You can grab this, look through it, write down your questions, give me a call the next morning, and I'll dig into it more. This is just an information document. We here at my brokerage do require it as part of transactions. It is a compliance, part of the compliance checklist. So again, general information notice to consumer. We use it, we like it, your clients will too. Y'all have a great day. If you enjoyed this video and would like to learn more about the real estate industry, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.